We are here at Chevrolet Buick GMC Cadillac Certified Service in Burnaby. We're here with Craig Campbell. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Feeling the chill yet?
It's getting cold. We're Canadian, so we're used to it.
And we're getting our cars basically winter ready because it is that time to do it. And it really starts with one of the most important things I happen to think would be probably the tire. Am I right?
Yeah, you're going to think about tires. It's the only part that's actually touching the ground. All that great technology up here, but it's just rubber touching the ground in 4 spots. That's all.
So we don't want this one. This one is not good.
No, and remember, this is a real customer, and this is something that's important, especially out here, lots of hills, lots of rain, that kind of idea. This has no traction. They went way past the tread. You can see the tire itself is actually breaking down, but that was a vehicle on the road. Okay, that's bad. Obviously, you want to switch your tires before then, and that's where we start getting into some of the choices that we have. This is probably the one province that I can say that all season is truly all season. If we're elsewhere, all season is really 3 season, but out here, it's beautiful. A lot of times.
All season, all weather, is that the same kind of tire? Because we hear both terminologies.
For virtually out here, it is the same kind of idea. You're looking at something that can do its job, but when it gets cold, all season, all weather still does not work as well. So depending on where you are, once it gets that 7 degrees and below and stays there, you want to start thinking about some other options. But these are great, lots of tread in them. It helps to repel the rain, helps give you that traction on the hills, that kind of idea. But when it's cold, you got to think winter tires.
And so we're really looking at what the specific tread, the amount of tread, and also what the spacing in between?
Yeah, you're looking at, and these ones are spacing that gets rain out of the way. One of the big differences that you'll look at when you go to a winter tire, some of the voids between the tread blocks are actually thicker because now we're talking about snow and ice and that, we want to get that stuff out too. So that's where we look at the winter tire here. Now, winter tire, you'll see it's a little bit different overall. You can see these little lines in there, we call them sipes, and basically when it gets cold, the rubber composition in here, when it gets 7 degrees and less, still stays nice and soft, so flexible. An all-season tire, 7 degrees and less, starts to firm up. But these ones here, that sipe in there is like fingers that grip into the snow and ice, and they give you lots of great traction. But remember, it's the rubber composition that's also way different than these ones too.
Excellent, and again, we should make sure that when we're out of winter, we take off the winter tires, because it really just preserves the life of the tire too,
Absolutely.
doesn't it?
Now you got 2 sets of tires that'll last twice as long too.
Excellent, let's make our way to another important thing for people to consider.
Wipers, okay, and that's, we recommend basically every 6 months, but hardly anybody does. But this is the time that you should be thinking about it, because obviously we're getting into more rain, and if you're going to the hills, more snow, more ice, that kind of idea. Some of you may have a wiper like this, just conventional blade, and it actually has all that framework in there. And if you're getting somewhere where it has lots of that ice and snow, that's what builds up in there, and this doesn't flex enough on your glass. So that's why we look at things like a beam blade, and you can see the flex is already built into it. And the nice thing about those ones, it gives you that extra pressure to help wipe it away. But the rubber is also different. So if you're living in an area where it gets cold, you can also look at a winter version of this, which is a beam blade, where the rubber composition is actually better and it stays more flexible when it gets cold, because you actually want to see where you're going all the time.
Fantastic, such great information. And by the way, for more information, you can go to mycertifiedservice.ca. Coming up next, we're making our way under the hood. Well, we are here at Chevrolet Buick GMC Cadillac Certified Service in Burnaby, where we are getting our car winter ready. And Craig, we talked earlier about tires, and there was an interesting thing you said people do have to remember about a week after they get their tires changed or put on.
Yeah, because you're putting those tires on, and there's different metals in there, and they expand and contract at different rates. So we want to make sure that they are perfect and tight and safe. So come back about a week later, and we'll just check the torque on it to make sure they're safe and ready to go.
Now, when it comes to under the hood, most people realize, of course, I got to get my oil changed. That's the obvious one, but really in many cases it's about preventative measures, kind of like when we go to a doctor.
Yeah, it's almost like a health report. You can get your oil changed, that's the lifeblood of your vehicle, but there's so much more in a vehicle now, so that's when we get into an inspection. You should look at an inspection about every 12,000 kilometers, every 6 months kind of idea. This is the perfect time to do it because it's just before the weather starts to change. And what you're looking at here is it really goes through a green, yellow, and red. Green, everything's great, no worries. Yellow is kind of that education side, that something small here you may need to be aware of. We can take care of it now before it becomes expensive. One of those examples would be brakes. When we're taking those tires off, we can take a good look at your brakes. And then we look at brake pads. This one's actually not bad, but we've had lots of customers where there's no brake pad left, and it gets all in the rotors and so on. If we catch it at this level, it means it doesn't get to the expensive side of replacing your rotors and so on, and making sure you put on a nice new set of brake pads. Because remember, this is what makes you stop. You don't want to go and make it really expensive. And that health management report, if you will, our inspection report here, will tell you what's going on with your vehicle.
And one of the other things, I mean, when people make their way to a certified service center, is you'll check on all the fluids, you'll make sure everything's topped up. But one of those things that we always got to keep handy is the windshield washer fluid, and that's a little bit on us as well, right?
Yeah, and that's something you do all the time. I know it's going to sound crazy, but the cheap stuff you get many times says minus 30, and people out here go, it never gets to minus 30, so it's fine. But that means it won't freeze inside the reservoir at minus 30. But even when it gets to that minus 10 kind of idea, maybe going skiing, this stuff here, it's an alcohol base, a methanol that's in there. It actually will evaporate when you spray it in the glass. The higher the number, minus 35, minus 45, and so so on. It means there's more of that in there that doesn't evaporate, meaning it does its job better, and it only costs an extra $1 or $2, so it's not bad.
Fantastic. I love it. The preventative things keep the bills hopefully down, and that's
Absolutely.
what we want, and it's really all about safety. That is the first and foremost concern. Thank you so much for joining us. By the way, for more details, you can go to mycertifiedservice.ca.